comes from.
Glitter! I completely forgot about the glitter. I've been doing like a very Goya-colored art spirit of Stixie Renard flying through the dark night towards a hellfire mountain. Yeah, I mean, y'all can see that because that is the accurate representation of what I've been painting.
Because Bernadette is all about like artists just needing to create in order to channel their force into the world properly, I figured that we're given all this lovely time and that we could just create whatever we wanted. So we've set this up in case it inspires you, and also if it doesn't, my producer's feelings won't be hurt. Mine will be deeply hurt.
Yeah.
So just don't.
Why will they be hurt?
When Stixie Renard is on the case.
Stixie Renard, guys, this is gonna be a thing.
Turn him around again.
Oh no, the tag's still
Because the tag is still on, because Stixie Renard is super expensive, and we do this show on a budget. I don't think anybody understands what we accomplish here, but I don't know if Stixie's gonna be hanging around much.
Sure.
Sorry, Michaels, who is not a sponsor of the show, clearly. We have acrylics, but I'm also really proud of the fact that I purchased glitter glue pens.
Wow.
Also, because I just felt like once Stixie showed up, that he probably deserved a little bit of sass.
The important thing too about a sip and paint is not dipping your paintbrush in your drink. That is important. Don't laugh at me. That is really, you have to be careful.
I'm laughing because now I have to set the drink very far away.
Like, okay, maybe I'm not that thirsty.
Because I'm 100% gonna do that. Once I feel like it's time to start asking questions, I want to talk about how you were in Antarctica to film this, right?
Greenland, actually.
Okay.
We went north instead of south. So we were in the Arctic Circle instead of the Antarctic.
That's awesome, man, because I feel like as an actor, like, I would want to be stuck up there with Linklater and Kate Blanchett. And
it's a dream.
And so I'm assuming that you had everybody up there because even though y'all weren't in scenes together necessarily, it's like you've got Billy Crudup in winter gear.
Don't worry, rode a storm with Billy Crudup. No big deal. We can't call it a hurricane because it wasn't tropical.
Oh, okay.
But
can we call it Bob?
Sure. So it honestly had a name like that or something. It was like the polar storm, Bob. There's actually one scene where Kate comes in from the outside and you can see the water doing this on the outside because the ship is actually doing this on the water in the horizon. And I think that hilariously there was a note that Rick got when he did a screening where somebody said, I just didn't buy the CGI background in that shot. And he almost lost it. He was like, we were in a hurricane. That's real.
So I went to UT Austin, and of which Linklater is obviously very tied to. So we were in a screenwriting class, and our screenwriting teacher called him in to talk about the Sunrise Sunset series.
One of my favorite series of films ever.
It's pretty amazing, and it was like, it definitely hit in that era of all that really amazing indie cinema that was like at the festivals and inspiring all these filmmakers, and it was pretty great to go to school at that time as well. What was funny was that he's so candid, and he has this way about him, that he sat in front of our class and he was like, listen guys, there's no glory in screenwriting. To a screenwriting class.
No.
In context, he was like, it's really painful at times because you've written this thing in kind of a vacuum and then it goes to the set and it goes to the actors and it goes to so many people. And then you don't always have control over the process, obviously.
Yeah.
And he goes, so it can be really painful. And he was like, so really, like, if you think you're one of those people that can't handle it, you should definitely not be a screenwriter. The teacher, like, had a heart attack.
No.
Because you could just see it in his face where he was like, this is very real advice, but it is so not what I thought he was gonna tell a college screenwriting class.
Right.
However, I never forgot the passion behind this statement. And he obviously had been through a lot, even as a smaller filmmaker. And I always wanted to ask him how his thoughts had changed now that he's worked on so many big projects in such a long time since.
Sure, well, let me speak on behalf of Richard Linklater.
Love that. I mean, it's basically like he's here.
I would love to do that, however, I'm not going to. But in my experience, it's very painful to sort of be in a vacuum in this world, creating characters that then you kind of have to let go of. One of the first times I wrote a short piece for my friend to do in a theater show. And it was the first time I'd ever written something that I wasn't going to be in and wasn't going to film. And it was the wildest thing watching two people do it, because in my head, I had heard it one way, and then they were doing it another way, and it was in front of a live audience, so I was like, it's not like I'm gonna be like, stop, 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 you're doing this wrong, you know, but like, there's this weird, like sort of panicky anxiety that I was having where I was like, I can't control what's happening because it's happening in real time in front of me. There's no second take. It is what it is. They're the living piece now. And letting go of that it's painful.
There has to be something cumulative over time that happens when you are in this artistic industry and you have that happen kind of over and over again in different ways.
You get better at it.
Yeah.
And hopefully the thing is if you're doing it more and more, which is kind of going back to what the film is about, is when you're not creative, when you don't get to exercise these impulses, it starts to eke out of you in little ways. Like you start to become obsessive about the stick animal, and you start to, you know, like focus on that because that's your only source of creative input. Like right now, this is the only painting I will probably do for the next year of my life. So I'm having a real hard time trying to figure out where to start with that fox's eye.
Yep.
Because I'm like, this means a lot. Whereas if I was painting every day, I'd be like, whatever, the eye is here and let's just see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that flow.
That's one of the things that I really kind of attached to when I was watching the movie was that, oh yeah, when I don't have an outlet, then I start to behave so differently, and it becomes harder to get back into it eventually because you're like, ooh, I haven't done this for a while.
That's not a good place to be creatively.
I'm always.
I hate this. I hate this painting so much.
This was a great idea. We're doing great. We're doing great.
We should have done a sip with alcohol. That might have actually helped.
Yeah, I have booze in the back that's there just for emergencies. You know.
This is an emergency. It's a creative emergency.
It's like I'm weirdly obsessed with this fox.
I know. Are we both starting with?
Well, yeah.
Stixie of the now?
With Stixie, yeah, we definitely are, because he's magnificent.
The sketching is
Loud. This is a problem for you? We're not allowed to do this, Troy.
You know who's gonna be really into this, this whole setup is ASMR people? We just shouldn't, well, actually for the next 20 minutes of this interview, let's just go. It's gonna be a really popular video on YouTube, I guarantee it. Millions of views. Millions.
Oh my God.
I mean, I almost did it! I almost put my paintbrush in there! When I was over here with my water doing this, and then I almost, this is bad.
As I was watching the scene, so you're in a boat for like a considerable amount of time.
Bruh. That kayak.
It's like, how does one go about shooting scenes like that?
Thank you. Hitting a mark on a kayak in the middle of a glacier, it's so hard. And
Sounds
guess
horrible.
what? If you miss your mark, you run into Cate Blanchett. Not a good look. First of all, you're in 8 layers of underwear. Let's not even talk about the bathroom situation. And then Richard Linklater is like, come on in. And so you start paddling in between the glaciers, and then you have to stop in water.
Yeah.
Not easy.
And the result is super worth it. It always is. That's the thing. But it looked super hard to the point where I was like, I'm so glad I'm not an actor in these moments, because I feel like this is probably the most difficult thing that we've ever tried to pull off, and I'm just painting and there's no stakes. Would you say you're a perfectionist?
Oh, yeah.
So this is what this is bringing out in us.
Yeah, this is like really rough.
Right, so it's like anxiety, it's like I need to do this right, I want it to be good. This is fascinating to me.
This is...
I brought you here into this beautiful art studio to face your greatest fears.
God, I can't.
It's funny because this is how I get about a lot of pursuits. Because if I'm doing an interview, that's like my zone, right? So I do this for a living, and I at least I know I have my footing.
Yeah.
But like occasionally, somebody will be like, would you like to be in my short film or
Right.
like a thing or like an Instagram video. And I like panic because I'm like, if I'm not asking
Right.
people questions about their life and I don't know what I'm doing here. And they're like, no, it's not gonna be terrible. And I'm like, I promise you that it's not gonna be what you were intending.
Do you find that once you get into it though, you're able to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because eventually that the competitive side of me takes over because I'm not competitive with other people, I'm competitive with myself.
Sure. So
So-
you're a bit of a perfectionist as well.
Yeah, I am, but I think that my journey is to constantly get myself to like achieve perfection in not being perfect.
That makes so much sense. I guess that's a part of also being an actor, which is really weird, is you have to not be afraid to make mistakes and to mess up. Because getting it perfect is not interesting on camera. And you have to be okay with that. And that means embarrassing yourself in front of legends like Richard Linklater and Cate Blanchett. And so sometimes you get to the end of your day and you're like, well, that day sucked. It felt sad.
Have you ever been given like a really big note on your performance that made you go like, whoa, can I take 5 or something?
Sure. Well, I think that things have just have not worked. I don't think I've ever been it's ever been a moment where I've been like, oh God, I really need to go away and like rethink all of this. I've done that in theater, for sure.
Yeah, and that makes sense because it's like you choose to play it one way and then you leave and then you come back to the rehearsal just naturally.
Absolutely. But it's like I have an idea about the character and then you go through a run of the show and then you're like, wow, that didn't work out at all. That did not work out at all. It didn't feel good. It didn't work. I mean, that's the thing that's kind of crazy about theater is you can do a whole run of a show and then say like that was completely off and I have to go back and not build it from scratch, but reapproach it.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to be confident enough to say that's not me being wrong or bad. That's just not the right approach for this text. What we do as artists is the art that I do, which isn't this, clearly, is so collaborative. You need other people. And so I need to be able to take criticism and then reapproach my work.
Yeah.
So it is very different. It's like, I feel like if I were a painter, again, no. But if I were a painter, then I would be able to say like, what do I want to paint? How do I want to paint it? How is this working for me? And then if somebody didn't get my work or like my work, I could say, well, it's either not for you, but I'm interested in exploring this.
Right.
But when I'm working on a set, when I'm working with a director, if something's not coming across in their film or in their space, I have to trust that and I have to learn how to incorporate that with my own art. So it's different.
What is one of the most like memorable first acting experiences that you had? Because you've been at it for so long.
It's probably gonna be something in theater school. It just felt, that's the best part about theater school. It felt like a laboratory. It felt like we were messing everything up and in a good way.
Did you do kind of like notable plays that people would recognize, or were you doing stuff that was really kind of out there that you didn't even have a frame of reference for?
Oh, you know what's actually really funny, and we talked about this on the boat? Billy Crudup did the I think it was the world premiere of one of my favorite plays called The Pillow Man.
Oh, I saw
by Martin
him in
McDonagh.
that.
Did you?
Yes.
So he did that, and so did one of my very dear friends. And he told me, he was like, this is one of my favorite plays. I saw an incredible production of it, you should read it. And I read it, and I said to all of my other best friends at the time, we were all in a theater group, and it's a mostly male play. So I said, you guys need to do it, because I was the only woman in the theater group at the time. And I was like, you guys should do this play. It's absolutely incredible. And so they went away and they started doing it. And then midway through, something happened, and the lead role, the person that Billy Crudup played on Broadway, that person had to drop out. And my best guy friends came to me and said, you're the only person we trust to learn this part in 2 weeks. So I learned the part in 2 weeks. You don't leave the stage for 3 hours. It's one of my favorite plays ever. Yeah. And I got to do it. And one of the coolest moments of my life was getting to sit down at a bar on the ship of Where'd You Go, Bernadette, when we were shooting in Greenland. And everybody was wrapped except for Kate, who had a couple more scenes. And I was sitting there with Billy, and he had a beer and I had a glass of champagne, and I was like, I need to talk to you about something because we played the same character. And I told him the story of that, and it was pretty rad to get to talk with him about his experience playing Couturian and my experience playing Couturian, because it's one of my favorite plays and it was one of his.
I really love sitting down with people who do this job. You know, I mean, I'm not talking about just like, oh, gossip, like who's the meanest person? I mean like when you're talking to someone who kind of has a sense of a craft or why they're doing this. Talking to someone that does what you do is fascinating. There's nothing that beats it.
Oh my God.
Especially when you're like in front of a captive audience of somebody interesting and on a boat in friggin' Greenland. That sounds awesome.
There's a part of me that's obviously freaking out and having this moment because I'm getting to work with people that I've really looked up to for my entire life. Richard Linklater changed the way that I thought about making films. You know, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, Before Midnight trilogy changed the way I thought about filmmaking, changed the way I thought about acting and writing. And then, you know, Dazed and Confused and Boyhood. And so, so there's that element where you're going in, you know, to meet this person and work with this person. And then you are going in to meet and work with Cate Blanchett, who has been an icon of mine since I was a young girl. And if you're gonna be authentic, which you have to be as an artist, to bring yourself, to bring like the core part of you, you have to acknowledge that. And you have to be like, wow, there's nerves. I feel like I need to do a good job. I feel like I want to impress these people. But at the same time, you're like, okay, but I also need to think about you as my equals in some way. That's my ego outside. Gotta go.
Making an appearance.
saying, because you have to say, you know, okay, now I get to go to work with these people.
Right.
And my opinion and the work that I'm gonna do is going to be of value to them. And I can't present myself as like, oh, here I am, like little fangirl. Because you've hired me to come do a job. I'm supposed to be a character with you. So how are you authentic to yourself in that moment so that you can embrace that and then move on and then go, okay, great, now I can work with these people.
Yep.
It's a weird balance. You're right, we are in an odd industry where you have to like, you know, you respect these people and you respect the art so much and their past work, and then you have to just be cool with it.
Then you just have to get over it and get to work, and holy shit. Who have you been totally nerded out to meet in all the many people that you've come across?
I mean, other than the people that I worked with on this film.
Because that's the thing, like this film, I'm like, the other great part is that you guys are all in this really remote location for this movie. Because by the time that you show up, it's like, oh, cool, you're like in it with these people.
Yeah, I mean, that was the really cool thing, but it was also funny because my character does not really make an appearance until, you know, we get to this remote location. So it was like everybody'd been shooting for 2 months or something in Pittsburgh, and I'd come in for some rehearsals and for one scene that we shot on stage, but really I was like the weird kid that showed up late for summer camp. And I was like, hey, you guys already have a bunch of friend groups? That's cool, can I sit with you? I mean, thankfully everybody was so generous and was like, come aboard, weirdo.
God.
But it was wild to be on this ship and suddenly just, you know, playing Cards Against Humanity with everybody. Because it's like, it's not like you go home afterwards, right? You know, you're like, all right, going back to my cabin, who wants to sauna later? Like, you know, it was pretty weird and awesome. And then especially when the storm rolled in, you're just like, am I gonna die with these people? Because I mean, cool on the one hand, but also not ready.
Right, like I have an awful lot to live for. So much.
I'm sure they don't want to die with me either. We just met. I don't even know how we got on the topic of dying. Isn't it? Oh, you were asking me who else I get weirded out about.
Yeah. Because everybody has that one person that they've like, either that you're really excited to meet and you've never met, or the person that you met and were. Like one time, I saw Jeff Goldblum in line for a Southwest Airlines flight and was in the same boarding group.
Yeah.
And I, like someone had introduced us, and hello, he said, and he's staring at me with his intense eyes, and I was like, hi. And he goes, what is it that you do when you're not taking Southwest Airlines flights? And I fucking panicked, and I just went, I party.
No, you did not say I party to Jeff Goldblum. Are you serious?
I guess we'll have a good time in Albuquerque.
What? That's amazing. Did you get to party?
No, not at all.
No.
But I'll tell you what, so he was flying there to shoot, and I did a set visit on video for the film. It's several months later, right? And I was like, please, Jesus above, do not let him remember. And I walked in, and he turned around and he goes, stop what you're doing, everybody. She just brought the party.
Are you serious?
Oh gosh.
That's awesome.
Right, I was like, shit, for all the things for somebody to remember. Like,
That's cool. I mean, it's pretty unforgettable. That's memorable.
I party.
I party.
Jesus, I don't even. That's the thing. I'm a
That's
very
the hilarious thing about human beings when they get nervous is we just spout weird shit.
Oh my God, don't let the pink hair fool you. I'm like a grandma. I love Epsom salt baths and quiet things.
doesn't?
I party. Jesus Christ, I just
language.
freaked out.
That's your kind of party. So, working on this lemon.
I'm super into your painting.
Thank you. I'm super into yours.
I don't know where this perspective exactly is coming from.
Yeah, no, but I like it. It's sort
for
of
it.
like omniscient.
I do want to be clear that I painted the bottle out of sheer fear telling the Jeff Goldblum story.
This is the whole point of creating art, right? Is that you take things from your life, either fear or love or curiosity, and then you figure out a way to, like, who knew that your fear of telling that story or that fear of meeting Jeff Goldblum and having a response would produce that bottle? That's crazy. That's wild.
That's right.
That is wild.
I never imagined waking up today that I would remember that story and make a fear bottle.
Make a fear bottle.
Oh, and you just
Fear
have...
bottle is the name of our next book, by the way.
And believe it or not, I feel like our time has come to a close. Is that what? I know.
I'm not done with my glitter paint.
That's right. Just
Yeah,
one
you
arc of
forgot.
glitter. Oh, you're right. I did. Okay, just one arc of glitter, and it's gonna
Using the whole thing.
do it. It's here for you.
Oh, man.
Oh yeah, I said just one arc, and I immediately regretted it. Hold on.
There's so much glitter.
We'll make sure. Yeah, we're definitely wrapping this up, everybody. But
Sure.
we definitely have to
We're
get.
definitely wrapping this up. Just come back in 2 hours.
Yeah, sounds good. If anybody ever had any doubts about this bit, just like that, I'm covering this in glitter. Oh yeah, this feels good.
This is gonna take 8 years to dry. So
Yup.
I hope the folks at home, the ASMR people, are ready for the follow-up video on YouTube, which is just watching this dry.
You get to watch paint dry. You're welcome.
Okay, we're wrapping it up. Wait, should we show?
Yes. The big reveal.
Oh,
Amazing.
that's beautiful.
Thank
That
you.
is a
Thank
fear bottle. I love the ear.
Thank you.
That's really good.
I'd put that on my wall. I'd turn that into a cover for the electrical switch outlet. That's how much I like yours.
Ooh,
Know what I
thank
mean?
you.
You know how they do that with like Starry Night?
Totally.
I'd do that with yours. Ah, amazing.
I mean, if Michaels doesn't sponsor you
Sponsor
now,
this.
I haven't done my job, you know?